So then, amateur radio, CB. I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and let you know what I think. Hey folks, thanks for watching, and once again, if you're coming back to seeing some more of the channel, if you're a regular viewer or an existing subscriber, then thanks for coming back. And if you've yet to subscribe, then think about clicking that subscribe button and the notification bell for any future videos. So recently there's been some quite high profile videos on the differences or comparison or a look at the role played by CB, 27 megahertz, 11 meters, whatever you want to call it. And there's been quite some high profile videos, one by 2E0EZT Carl, one by Callum DX Commander M0MCX, which caused a particular reaction and quite a lot of debate, which isn't a bad thing really, in particular. I come from this from maybe a slightly different angle. Up until fairly recently, I was quite an active participant on 27 megahertz, especially on SSB. And I thought I'd like to maybe give my view on it. So thanks to the activities of guys who go up and ladies who go up the hills every week to do regular nets, I became involved in the local Southern Net thanks to Ray CT2290, who was the original chairman there, and many others who took part. And I then helped chair it a little bit because of my location, because I was on the west side of the region, he was on the east, and it went really well. And then we grew into being a very big net on a Thursday night in the south with 30 to 50 stations every week calling it, and it's still going now thanks to Neil CT338, Charlie Tango, that is 388, sorry Neil. And yeah, it's going really well. So, you know, there's been a little bit of a mini boom lately with 11 meters, and what I found is that I think you can split 27 megahertz into two, basically. I think you've, on the one hand, I think you've got the good old-fashioned CB, Charlie Bravo. On the other hand, I think you've got the more, what's what I'm looking for? Formalised, perhaps, professional, maybe, SSB side of it. And it's that side, the SSB side, I think, that provides the gateway and a possible avenue into amateur radio. You see, CB, or 11 meters, whatever you want to call it, has previous for this, you know. Back in 1982, literally a year after the year following, I should say, the legalization of FM, there was a huge take-up in foundation licenses, or what was then known as the B license. I might be wrong with that, sorry. But about 8,000 people took up the license back then, which was a huge boom. And then it started to gradually decline from there per year in terms of the number of people taking up the license. Until recently, of course, with lockdown, which has given another golden opportunity, which I'm glad to say I think the RSGB has, to a large extent, actually taken a decent amount of advantage of, to be honest. But that's a different thing. So CB has been, or 11 meters, whatever you want to call it, has been a good gateway into amateur radio. Now, I want to talk about that because I think there's been a bit of, there's a tendency, I think, to preach that it should be a gateway into amateur radio. Maybe that's not always the case. You see, there's lots of guys up there, and girls, who just enjoy doing their own thing with 11 meters. They enjoy going up and taking part in the regular nets. And by the way, those nets I mentioned earlier, every week they're run across the country. So you've got a net up in the northwest, northeast. There are nets in the Midlands, down in the south coast. So there's some happening over in the southwest, South Wales, West Country. Loads happening, all right? If anything, there's probably slightly less now than it was about 2 or 3 years ago, but still quite a lot happening. And the thing is about these guys and girls who go up on the hill every week to do this, the ones who run it especially, they're not fair weather operators. They're up there every single week, come rain, shine, hail, sleet, snow, whatever's happening. And they go up there and they put up a huge antenna, you know, pretty big antenna, you know, like an Amtron 99 half wave up on like a 30-foot pole or something. You know, we're not talking just turning up with a little magma. They're going up there and giving it great guns. And these are people who I think are basically providing, I think, a life source for radio in this country. And if you think about it, given 11 meters is past history and current tendency, I think, to produce a new wave of amateur radio operators, that's a great thing. But 11 shouldn't just be viewed as that. It should also be viewed as something in its own right. And there's plenty of guys out there who love the hobby and just enjoy working on 27 megahertz. And I think that is absolutely fine. Whatever floats your boat should float your boat, providing what you do doesn't injure anybody else, doesn't affect anyone else, doesn't interfere with anyone, doesn't interfere with the emergency services, doesn't wipe out someone's television, doesn't stop anyone enjoying what they do, then what the heck? I think that's fine. Now, the word free band will come up here, I know, in people's minds. I'm not going to comment on that. If people want to go and do that, that's absolutely fine. Hey, how many of us watching this video haven't done it? He who cast the first stone, etc. Be a few of you who haven't done it and don't want to do free band. No problems at all. There'll be a few of you watching who love free band. Go on 27555 and have a good time. Good on you. As long as it doesn't affect me or anybody else, then I'm not here to pontificate. I'm not here to justify anyone. I'm not here to cast judgment. I'm just here to say, fair enough. Your choice. It's a free country. There is a risk involved in using free band. We all know what it is in terms of the legal part of it. But at the end of the day, are we saying it's a huge issue? I don't know. I guess that's for you to decide. And we're all grown-ups. I think we can make that decision for ourselves, can't we? And sure, look, there are people who maybe don't behave so well on 27 megs, probably on the 1.9, probably in other places. But I think there's people like that on amateur radio too. And let's not fall into the trap, by the way, of thinking that everyone who does that on amateur radio, and they're a very small minority, okay? But let's not fall into the trap of saying that everyone who does that on amateur radio is automatically from a CB background. Dangerous to say that, okay? I think that's disappointingly silly, to be perfectly frank, if I can use those particular watered down terms. I think at the end of the day, people are people. I think radio is radio. I think if you check out RF on 27 megs, you check out RF on amateur radio, I think the whole hobby is a cross-section of the society we live in, and there are people in society who are angry with the world, who want to take it out in some way, and will probably do that with the hobby that they maybe once loved at one point. And they can do that quite so easily on CB, or they can do that very easily on amateur radio. So I think saying that everyone who does that on 80 metres or 2 metres who jams repeaters, they're not necessarily from the CB background. And I think we need to possibly acknowledge that as being very much a truth, I think. Now, is amateur radio another option for you to use? Of course it is, and it is a good time to take it up. You can do all the licence classes now online. Getting your Mic 7 licence is easily doable. I'm not saying it's a cinch. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's just a simple exercise of writing your name and ticking a few boxes. And I work in education. I know for some people, exams, full stop, are a challenge because maybe because of people's bad experiences in the past, okay, in education. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy, go and do it. For some people it is easy. For some people, who find doing exams difficult, like the Mic 7 exam, they can do stuff that I wouldn't even dream of being able to do. So let's iron that one out as well. It's not a cinch for everyone, okay? Having said that, it's doable, it's attainable for the vast majority of people, okay? Bearing that in mind then, it's an opportunity for you perhaps to work other bands. And yes, you can work other bands from home. You will probably, I can't guarantee this, but you will probably find that the noise levels are a lot less on some amateur bands compared with 27 megs, for example. Okay, that I think is the case. You can easily use a fairly low antenna at home, maybe 10, 12 foot off the ground, either a wire, long wire, or a dipole, or a doublet, and you'll get on 20, 40 and 80, no problems at all. And you will make contacts throughout Europe. You will probably make some DX contacts as well. Okay, and it will open up a new world. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because you're using 27 megahertz exclusively at the moment that you have to do that. It's an avenue for you, okay? It's something to investigate, something to look into. And for pity's sake, don't think that everyone on amateur radio is a snob looking down on you because you've come from a CB background. Get that thought out of your head, all right? Get it out of your head. Now you may, if you're watching this, you may have encountered some idiots like that. Ignore them, be resilient, move on. get on HF. They're not going to hear you on HF, they're the local guys anyway, all right? Get on 80 metres, get on 40 metres. There's lots of antenna ideas you can follow to get on the lower bands from home. 20 metres, you're never going to hear them anyway, okay? So ignore the idiots. Yeah, they're not worth worrying about, all right? Now, if you're coming from this from the point of view that you're currently on 11 metres and you think that there's lots of people like that on amateur radio, there are not lots of people like that. You might encounter a few locals like that on 2 metres, you might not, all right? Give it a go, okay? And see what you can achieve. Now, if you don't want to give amateur radio a shot, that's fine too. If you're happy chatting to your mates on a regular net or a regular channel every night, and you're happy to take what comes along with sporadic E on, shall we say, the other frequencies you can use on 27 megahertz to make to make further contacts out there into Europe and stuff, or maybe down to South America, fine. If that's what you want out of the hobby, brilliant, okay? What I'm not going to do is try to preach to you and tell you that you're missing out and you're being silly. At the end of the day, it's a choice. Life, 99% of life is a choice. You choose what you want to do, you choose the avenue you want to go. But just be aware that the amateur radio side is an avenue that's attainable, and it will open up different bands and different possibilities for contacts. But that is, of course, down to you as to whether or not you think that's a good idea. But don't judge, or don't base your judgment on whether or not to go into amateur radio based on some of the stories you read on forums and social media about, well, they're full of snobs, they look down on us. I had a Mike 7 or Mike 6 call and they picked on me. You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Step away from them, use different bands, and enjoy the hobby. But if you want to stay on 27 megs, hey, good luck to you. I don't blame you. If you've got a nice bunch of guys that you speak to on a regular basis and you get a lot out of it, good on you. Go for it. Yeah, get out there and have a good time. It's a great gateway into the radio hobby in general, and it can be a stepping stone into amateur radio if that's what you want to do. Anyway, that's enough from me. 7-3 from Tim, G5TM, stroke, Charlie Tango 2116. All the best. Bye-bye.